get our message out and to build those coalitions in a meaningful way that we've never done before. It'll be important to use the daily more effectively as an association. You guys have been good at holding our feet to the fire, but now we're going to help, we're going to get our message out through you guys more effectively with the communications position. And that's what's really important, like fundamentally, like communication, building coalitions, listening to key stakeholders. And that's what I'd do if people were opposed to something that I was pushing on the board of directors.
Dahlia, with limited people and resources, who would you target in Olympia and how?
Sure. Well, I mentioned this in my introduction a little bit. I think so far what we've done this year with ASUW is a great step forward in reaching our legislators. And I think what we've realized, there's still some gaps that we can fill. First thing I would do on campus is to make this effort a little better would be addressing a wide range of students. So this year I understood that when I went to Olympia as a team captain, I realized that there was a lack of diversity in our students. And it was, be it through the postcards or any other method that we've had, we forgot to bring all of our campus together. Maybe it was, if it was forgotten by accident or is ignorance of our student leaders, that's debatable. I think what we can do is definitely meet from the start of the quarter by reaching out to the board of directors. Each of these positions have a liaisonship to a community, or they communicate with one group over another. And I think definitely talking to them from day one, coming up with creative ways to addressing our legislators with videos, coming up with things that we can do from this day one, not just in the winter quarter or past the importance of important days. And I think once we have that figured out in our campus and we have a strong group of students ready to go down to Olympia, and at that point when I would go to the next step is actually involve our alumni, the parents of these students, and even incoming Huskies, when it comes down to it. So they can have students from all around, not just from different districts that are talking to the legislators, but also from these different communities. So we are addressing the internal issue of bringing diverse student voice to Olympia from different corners of campus and different experiences, out of state, Husky Promise students who, I feel like they can handle it, but they don't know if their siblings can handle the pressures of the financial budget. And I think taking the next step and working with our external sources, making sure, like I said, parents, alumni are involved with it, we can definitely reach out to more of our students and our community and be able to bring that voice down to Olympia. And when we're there, not just addressing our legislators with one-on-ones, and it's definitely make sure that we're addressing them beforehand like we have this year and afterwards in different creative ways. I want to send 500 boxes of videos of just students talking to their legislators, personal notes. And I've realized that a lot of times we ask students in Senate or write a letter, and those letters are just, they get to a particular point. I want to take it to another level. And I think I definitely cannot do this alone. It requires a strong team of individuals on the board of directors next year to bring in those creative ideas and actually implement these next year.
All right, Connor. Hypothetically, as the president, you're sitting on a committee and student feedback does not seem to be taken seriously. What are the recourses that you have as president to address these concerns?
As president, I would be speaking for the entire student body, and so if I were in a situation with that where it was faculty, Senate, whoever, or working with a new president, whoever it may be, that didn't take our opinion seriously, I think that's a big issue because we are the students here, we're the University of Washington, and we're paying to go here, and our voices need to be taken into consideration when these decisions are being made at the table. So if that were the case, if that were not to happen, I'd reach out to my other board of directors, other leaders, to ensure that we could rally some type of opinion, whether it's going to student senate and getting an official student opinion passed, so that way there's actual binding resolution to it, that we can show the faculty or we can show whichever committee that may be in that this is something that students actually believe in and students care about. Beyond that, working with other administrators to say, maybe it's just one opinion, maybe it's not the entire block in that committee that doesn't take our opinion seriously, so we can rally other support within the administration. Other administrators may support us while others won't, and we really need to get those people on our side so that way we can show the naysayers, I'll say, that we actually there are people who support us, there are people who take our opinion seriously, and we are students that matter, we have a student voice, and that voice needs to be taken into consideration because if that's not, then you just basically delegitimize the entire point of having the student representation on those committees.
Andrew, what have been the negative effects on student groups of moving to Condon this year, and how will you address them differently next year?
Okay,
First, no one knows where the hell Condon is. I mean, that's the first notable problem. Last year I had a history class in Condon Hall, and when I got there, I was like, oh my god, I hate this building. It's a cardio exercise just to get over here. And then, lo and behold, this year, as an employee of the association working in our Office of Government Relations, advocating for students, I'm like, oh, so my office is in this Politburo Soviet-style concrete block. So no one knows where it is. It's ugly, but we got to live with it because that's what we got. So, I mean, the first step is communicating with students that that's where Condon is, and I think that we could do that effectively by just advertising like what ASUW is in general and why you should care where Condon is in the first place. Like, why should you care where to find ASUW? It's like, well, because the bike shop is there, EXCO is there, CORE is there, the Office of Government Relations is there. That's where the board of directors conducts business. And I think first by getting people excited and interested about being involved in ASUW, that's the first step. I mean, right now we have about, I think, 1/3 of our student body just checks the free box to be able to vote in these elections and participate in ASUW. And until we've solved that membership crisis, we've got to solve that before we get to the point of guiding people to Condon Hall. I mean, at that point, I think it'd be easier. Like, we just need to make it apparent that these services are out here, that we're committed to providing these services, that you pay in over $700,000 a year to sustain what happens in Condon Hall. And then, of course, maybe you'll have the people like me, like last year, that just accidentally stumbled in there because I had a class, and hopefully that we'll get lucky, and that person will end up getting involved in ASUW through that exposure. But I'm not willing to take that chance. I want to work really hard on that communication and that branding, and those are the two things that are going to get more traffic over to Condon Hall, I think.
Thank you. Next up, can we please have the 3 vice presidential candidates?
Vice President!
When they give their intros, you're going to have to just move it a little around.
Let's begin with your 1-minute intros.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Will Hagen and I'm running to be your Vice President of ASUW on the Imagine UW team. I believe I have the experience necessary to accomplish this job, to complete this job, because of my experience as Vice President of my fraternity and Executive Director of the UW College Republicans. I'd like to focus on 3 things next year. That's strategic planning, advancement, and sustainability. Strategic planning means setting 1-, 5-, and 10-year goals for the financial growth of ASUW using the entities like the bike shop and the experimental college, the enterprises like the bike shop and experimental college. Advancement means looking to new sources of funding like alumni and local businesses to help fund ASUW continually. And sustainability means creating institutional memory within ASUW so that the board of directors and ASUW as a whole doesn't start over from year to year, that we have a sort of binder of best practices that the next board of directors can look back on. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jocelyn Curtin and I'm running for Vice President on the Huskies United ticket. The Vice Presidential position this year is much more internal, and I believe that my experiences both within the ASUW and greater campus community make me uniquely qualified to hold this position. I've held 2 directorship positions within the ASUW, both as the Committee Organizing Rape Education Director and as the UW Leaders Director. Both of those positions have allowed me to go throughout the campus community, helping students to get involved with the ASUW. I've also created new projects and programs within those entities while remaining within our financial budget, not only raising awareness of UW leaders and CORE, but also of the greater ASUW as a whole, and that's something that I'm going to bring to the vice presidential position next year. I also currently sit as a student trustee on the University Bookstore Board of Trustees. The University Bookstore is a $50 million organization, and we gave $1.4 million back to the students in rebates last year. I also allocate funds to different branches to make sure that it's upholding student interest, and that's something that I'm also going to do with all of the directors next year with the vice presidential position. Thank you again. I'm Jocelyn McCurtain, running for vice president on the Huskies United ticket.
Hi everyone, my name is Sam Weinstein. I'm running for ASUW Vice President with the Our Future ticket. I'm currently serving as your ASUW Director of Programming, where I'm a liaison and therefore oversee ASUW Arts and Entertainment, which has one of the largest ASUW budgets, along with CORE, the Committee Organizing Rape Education, the Student Health Consortium. I also co-supervise the Public Relations Coordinator, chair the Husky Pride Fund, and serve as a liaison to the University Bookstore. So I have a wealth of internal ASUW experience, which will really help me next year in working with all of the directors within the association to make sure that they are not only meeting their goals, but that they are doing this in a fiscally responsible manner. For next year, something that's really important to me is making sure that we're really working on our budget to prioritize student interests. ASUW is kind of in a budget crisis, in case you haven't heard. We spend close to $1 million every year, but unfortunately we're not bringing in enough revenue, so I want to make sure that next year we're looking strategically to alternative sources and also making strategic cuts while making sure that we're serving students to the best of our ability. Thank you.
Begin with Will. You identify weekly directors' reports in your platform for accountability. How would this differ from the current system in place?
Well, the weekly director's reports would be much more specific to each individual director. It's maybe publishing them in the daily rather than posting them online where not as many people can see them or look at them, I suppose. It's saying, all right, this is what I did last week, this is what I did last month, what I've accomplished, what I'm looking to do next week, the next month, and even the next year, going on down the line, so that there's definitely a sense of greater accountability within the director's reports and the board of directors as a whole.
All right, Jocelyn, it's been a really difficult year for ASUW businesses no longer located in the hub. Next year, how do you plan on supporting these enterprises?
Yeah, so I've actually met with Lindsay Gordon, who's the experimental college director, and she's definitely said that they've seen a huge hit. And something that I want to utilize is our new communications director, making sure that they're really publicizing what all of our enterprises are doing out in Condon, because I know that the bookstore, or sorry, not the bookstore, the bike shop and the experimental college have definitely seen things, have definitely been impacted by this. The bike shop has done some work in cutting down hours so that they're not necessarily losing as much money. And speaking with Lindsay, we're going to look more at publicizing what EXCO's doing. Both they've now modernized their website and working to really publicize it through means such as the Daily and other news sources that are reaching out to students. So like our Facebook that we've now created with the ASUW, really getting those on there as well. And that's something that I'm hoping to work with my board to make sure that they're doing that.
Sam, why did you vote to remove campaign spending limits, and with your current status as candidate, did you feel that presented any ethical dilemmas? People on the board often run for positions again, and should a similar dilemma occur in the future, how would you handle potential ethical dilemmas?
Sure. So when we were talking about campaign spending limits, we kind of saw a few different options. One was to keep spending limits as they had currently been. Two was to remove them altogether, or three was to increase them. At first, well, to start off, I was completely against keeping them the way that they currently had been. The rates honestly just were not reflective enough in terms of spending money per student and making sure that we're reaching out to the best of our ability when trying to really advertise elections and who's running. So then kind of it became, do we increase them or do we remove them? At first I thought about removing them altogether, and my reasoning for that was because I thought that spending limits can definitely deter candidates from running. A lot of times people see this dollar amount that's hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and it worries them. They wonder how they can come up with that money and if that money is even going to be used in an appropriate manner to really inform voters of the elections. So that was also a concern. But then we started talking about it more and more and realized that ultimately spending limits do keep us accountable as running officials. We're making sure that we are spending money in a way that is really advertising elections, and that spending limits really do increase the visibility on campus because you have X amount of dollars to really go out and spend it on elections. Addressing the ethical part, I think that what's most important is that we are hearing from our constituents, and that's something that we did as a board and which we do regularly. We took this to ASUW Senate, and we also talked not only with individual senators, but with students across the association to see, what do you feel? What do you think is most important? And hands down, people said we would like to see an increase in spending limits, so that's what we did as a board, and that's the same kind of thing that I will do next year, making sure that we're speaking with our constituents and really doing what they want us to do, because we are elected by the students for the students.
Will, what are some difficulties the current vice president is facing in the position, and how would you address them?
I think the biggest difficulty is an awareness of ASUW budgetary concerns. I was able to sit down with Eric Schellen, a current vice president, and look at the ASUW budget, look at pie charts and bar graphs and things like that I find fascinating, but not very many people find interesting. And that was the first time I had seen that. And I think it's important that students know where their money is going. So maybe using, again, the daily or the ASUW wiki, things like that, to make students more aware of where their money is going.